everyone, Ryan Young, Kama Jiu-Jitsu. I hope you're doing well. So the question today was, should I switch team? Now there are a number of reasons why you may want to or may even consider switching teams. I did it many times, in fact. But when I look back on what I did, a lot of the reasons why I switched teams probably was for the wrong reason. For instance, well, my first team that I switched out of was when I moved to California from Hawaii. So I had no choice there. So I went from Helson Gracie's team to Gracie Torrance, which is where Royce, Horian, and Fabio Santos were. I went there because they were the brothers of my instructor, and Helson told me that's where to go. So I went there, but I really wanted to learn under RICKSON as well. But RICKSON I thought was there, and because he even had an office in there, a separate mat space where he did his private sessions with his name on the door. So I thought he was there, and months went by, he never came by. I asked, where's RICKSON? And they said, oh, he's busy, he comes in, I'm like, and I thought to myself, well, when is he gonna come in? Well, I don't know, he just comes in when he does. Well, come to find out, he and Horian had a breakup, and RICKSON had his own studio in West LA. And I don't know how I found out about it, but I did. So I ended up going there and training there as well as Gracie Torrance, because RICKSON did a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the classes that I did at Gracie Torrance was Tuesday, Thursday. So I was able to go 5 days a week. But at some point in time, there was a formal cut between the two where the students now were in on it, and we had to make a choice. So then I switched over to RICKSON's team. I don't know why. I mean, obviously because RICKSON is the best one, but I just felt more at home at RICKSON studio than I did at Gracie Torrance. Gracie Torrance felt more like a health club, where you don't necessarily know people, just a couple people here and there, but it was very much a business, but run like a health club, whereas RICKSON's place was more like a boxing gym type mentality. It was much more intense. And having come from Helson School, which was just like that, it was more comfortable for me to head over to RICKSON. So that's why I switched team again. At that point in time, RICKSON was fighting in Pride. I think they had Vale Tudo and all those fights before Pride was actually in existence. He was fighting, so at that point he hardly came around, and Dave Kama, who was RICKSON's top guy, had already moved down to run RICKSON's Laguna Niguel campus. So if any of you know West LA and Laguna Niguel, it's probably over an hour away. It's easily over an hour away with no traffic. You add in traffic, it could be a 2-hour drive. So there's no way I was gonna make it down there. So after being at RICKSON's Pico Boulevard Academy for a while and not seeing him around anymore, whereas before I was seeing him every single class. He taught every single class for most of the few years that I was there. And I eventually moved off and went to another school. And that was the reason why I left. In retrospect, should I have left? I don't know. At the end of the day though, if I didn't leave, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I wouldn't maybe have come to the convictions that I have regarding the self-defense version of Jiu-Jitsu versus the competition part of Jiu-Jitsu. I had to be on the competition side for 10 years. Now I wasn't in it every single day. I was very occasional during that period of time. And I think part of the reason why I was occasional was because I wasn't really into it. And to me, it wasn't Jiu-Jitsu. Wrapping the lapel around the arm and stuff and wrapping, it just wasn't, it didn't feel right to me. Whereas my first 8 years up until that point of training was done old school Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So me doing something called Jiu-Jitsu, but having it completely different, to me at least, it didn't feel right. So I wasn't really that energized to train. It wasn't until probably about 2007 is when I just decided I'm going to start training more. And I did. And I was with my same teacher for about 10 years, and then our schedules didn't really jibe anymore. I had no plans to leave him, but since our schedules weren't working out anymore and he was stepping out of doing jiu-jitsu as a business, he was going back to work as an educator. I ended up finding Dave, and that's where I've been ever since. And now that I'm with Dave, I switched again, right? Another time I switched, and I'm at home again, as I have been for the last 10 plus years that I've been with Dave. One of the things that pops up here and there that I hear as an instructor from other people is that I want to switch because, especially here at Kama Jiu-Jitsu in Dallas, we've always been a small team. But when you have a small team and a new team, you don't have depth of belts. We had white belts and we had me. And then we had white and blue belts, and then me. Now white, blue, and purple belts, and then me. So somebody may be coming in and saying, well, I'm better than your purple belts. Of course, that's not true, though. Our purple belts are pretty good. But let's say somebody were to come in and go, Ryan, I'm a brown belt now, and I'm the best guy here, and I'm going to go to another school where I have more black belts that can challenge me. So they may decide to leave for that reason. I did have one student who, as a blue belt, was my best student at the time and felt that he had nobody to challenge him. He picked a reason to get upset at me and then decided to leave, but then told me the reason why later was because he wanted to have more people challenging him. And I always allowed my students to go out and train at open mats and stuff. I never had any problem with that. If you wanted to go out and train open mat, and even to this day, go ahead and do it. And he always had that option, but he decided to go somewhere else, and he ended up coming back. And nothing changed from the time he left to the time he came back, in that we didn't have anybody at the time that was better than him. Granted, we had people that were catching up in that time that he was gone, but nobody that was better than him, so it didn't change. But he continued to progress after that, which leads me to believe that he didn't have to leave to get better. I'll get questions all the time, I want to train with people that are better than me. The thought process is that if you train with people better than you, they're going to pull you up. I've found that's not really the case. It depends on the individuals who are better than you. If they're better than you and teaching you and coaching you to rise up, then yes. But if they're just better than you and beating you, you won't get better through osmosis. You won't get better just because they're better and you're training amongst them. If you're crap, when you go into a place that's full of top level guys and they're not teaching you and they're just training and training with each other, and then you come in and you start training, at the end of a year or two, you're still going to be crap, right? You need to be taught and coached. Every time you get beaten, you need to be taught that lesson. Right? Some people say, well, when you train, you want to make sure you tap a lot because, it's like, well, yeah, tap a lot, that's good, but only if you're learning from it. You go to a place and you get tapped 100 times. If you don't learn every time you get tapped, then there's no sense, right? Better to be somewhere else where you tap everybody, but every time you do something, you learn something, right? It's not the volume of how many times you tap versus your opponents, right? Just because I train with RICKSON every day, and he taps me 100 times a day, if he doesn't stop and tell me, Ryan, you did this wrong, Ryan, let me show you this, Ryan, let's do this differently for you instead. If he's not doing that, I'm still going to get tapped 100 times and I'm not going to get any better. So if that's the reason why you're choosing to switch team, I wouldn't do it. Instead, work on yourself and work on handicapping yourself. Let people pass your guard. Let people get mounted on you. Let people take your back. And once they take your back, then let them sink a choke in. And then figure out how to get out. Because if you do that, then your defense gets better and better and better. And every time that you tap, you can think to yourself, okay, why did I tap to that guy? Right? And then you can ask them sometimes if they know why. Well, because you let me get my arm a little too deep. Okay, fine. So you think, okay, I'm either not going to let him get that arm deeper on my neck again, or I'm going to let him get the arm deep and maybe I turn this way and I can get out. But if I turn this way, it gets worse. If you think in those terms, you don't need to have people that are better than you. RICKSON didn't have anybody better than him. Dave didn't have anybody better than him. But yet, they still got better. And it's because they took a different cerebral approach to training rather than just looking at black and white and saying, I have to be among the best guys. Because if you're among the best guys, what if you are the best guy? What are you going to do when you're the top of the heap? Where are you going to go? You can't go anywhere because there's nobody better than you. So then that whole theory about why you need to go somewhere doesn't make sense, right? I have a student that left, and I touch base with everybody. I don't have any animosity toward any student who was here and then leaves, because everybody leaves for whatever reasons. I touch base with this particular gentleman, and he says he's gone off to a competition school, and he said he likes it there because everybody there beats his ass. It's not like it didn't happen here as well, but they have high-level competitors there, and he feels he's going to be better training there. Maybe he will be, maybe he won't be. If they're not only better, they're teaching him, then yes, he will be better. If they're better and they're not teaching him, then he won't be. Because a lot of times people think to themselves, if you just look at a particular team right now, one of these teams down in San Diego that have a big world champion core of people that are there. Are they better because of one person bringing everybody up, or are they as good as they are because people go, oh, that's the best team, I want to join that team, thinking they're going to be good through osmosis, right? Or, thought process, okay, well, since they're good, then if I go there, I'm going to be good too. That's not the case. You can go to somewhere and you have the best particular competitors there, but you won't be the best because you're not being taught. If that's the reason why for switching team, then I wouldn't do it. However, if it comes down to a personality difference between you and your instructor, and you can't resolve it, then yeah, you're probably gonna have to make a switch. Another thing too is, let's say you started with the self-defense side, but really what interests you is a competition side. Well, if the self-defense school is not offering you an ability to be successful in competitions, which is what you want, then you're gonna have to make a switch. Here's another thing you can do. Instead of switching school, sometimes your instructor may be very good in one part of the game, but another part of the game he's lacking. He doesn't know, right? For instance, leg locks, knee bars, heel hooks, and all that. Not everybody is good at that stuff, but you could easily seek out privates or lessons or drop-in classes or whatever at a school that does that, learn a little bit, bring it back, and then work with that. You don't have to go, okay, well, I want to do leg locks, so I'm going to switch from this school to that school. Unless you want to. If this school isn't worth staying at, then by all means, switch and go to this school. But if you love it at your school, but you want to learn how to do leg locks and knee bars, then go find a guy who's an authority on it and go learn it from him. Anyway, I hope that made sense to you. Sometimes switching school is not the ideal thing, but other times it may be. But make sure that if you do it, you know why you're doing it. That's all I got for you. Like and subscribe. Take care. Have a great day. Happy training. Bye-bye.